Are you the parent of an athlete who used to be on top of their game, but you now see them struggling to overcome their fears? Fear of failing, fear of not being able to perform when it matters most in a big game, or sometimes even fearful to the point that they can't find consistency in practice. Or perhaps you're a coach, someone who got into coaching because of your passion. You love helping others grow and develop, and yes, even win. But now you're dealing with parents and athletes who aren't receptive to coaching or feedback, who would rather opt out than listen, dig deep, and put in the work to do better next time. Hello, I'm Kirsten Jones, former D1 volleyball player, 15-year Nike executive, turned motivational speaker, coach, author of the book Raising Empowered Athletes, mother of 3, and the proud host of this podcast, Raising Athletes. When I started my sports parenting journey, I found myself looking for tools and advice anywhere I could find it, not only to help me make better choices on the sidelines, as I often coached my young kids in their sport, but also as a spectator, trying to swallow my words on the dreaded car ride home. Over the last 6 years, I've interviewed dozens of coaches, athletes, authors, and professionals in the mental health and physical health world who dedicate their lives to helping young athletes. Welcome to the Raising Athletes podcast. Thanks for being here. Let's do this. Hello and welcome to the Raising Athletes podcast. My name is Kirsten Jones. I'm a peak performance and sports parenting coach and author of Raising Empowered Athletes and the host of this podcast for now 8 years. Raising Athletes. It's what we all start off as parents, as coaches, and even as young athletes. We have dreams, we have aspirations. I know as a kid in Montana, I wanted to play on the national team. It never happened, but all the life lessons that I learned along the way got me where I was meant to be. In fact, to here today, and to this wonderful opportunity to talk to people who are in this space, doing the work, inspiring and helping others. Today's guest is going to be a special one. Parents, I know I like to say 13 months a year, our kids are doing their sports, and what is happening? We're seeing breakdown, we're seeing burnout, we're seeing overuse injuries. And Dr. John A. Gallucci, short JAG, Dr. JAG is here today to talk to us about some of those things that are happening, what he sees, how he works with pro athletes and helping them on their journey and recovery. Thank you so much for making time to be here, Dr. JAG.
Kirsten, I greatly appreciate it. Please call me John, and very excited to read your book. I thought it was amazing what you're doing for parents out there, and I think it's amazing that parents have to understand it's all about developing your children, and it's not just about winning awards or trophies. It's all about the development and the lessons that they learn through athletics and sport. I think you nailed it on the head when you said you had these aspirations, you played a sport, and those lessons have come with you the rest of your life. And I think that's a great place to start.
Awesome. Okay, so let's start there. I love hearing from people how they got to where they are. Because again, I had this idea that I was going to go do X, Y, and Z, and it didn't happen, but I ended up at Nike, and then I ended up creating this. And I believe life is about wayfinding. It's, yes, sometimes people have a vision and it's exactly who they become, but I think most of us have a journey that, and frankly, I think it's better that way. Like, I wouldn't want to know what I'm doing 5 years from now. The unknown is actually also really exciting. Could you share your journey, where you grew up, what sports you played, and how you got to where you are now?
Absolutely. I hail from the Isle of Staten, otherwise known as the Forgotten Borough, Staten Island, of the 5 boroughs of New York City. I was raised by my mom and dad and my big brother. And we owned a small surgical supply business in Brooklyn, another borough. And I had the opportunity at a very, very young age to see patients in need, to see people in need of different types of devices and mechanisms and physicians and different specialties at a young age. And when I was 13, 14 years old, I had the opportunity to see physical therapists in action as I became the delivery man, delivering supplies to physical therapy offices and to patients' homes. And ultimately, I was enamored on what a physical therapist was able to do. And I like to say I worked in my first clinic at 13 and a half years old. cleaning tables and cleaning laundry, and washing things down. And I haven't left. I'm now 59 years old, and I haven't been out of a physical therapy office since 13 and a half. I've had some great experiences in sport, as I'm sure in my bio you've seen. I've had some great experiences as a practicing physical therapist and certified athletic trainer, but it all started humble beginnings working for my parents' business. I was an athlete, I was a baseball player, and I was a wrestler. I was a very advanced, as we talk about timelines, I was that kid that all of a sudden at 12 years old can throw faster than anybody else on the team. So all of a sudden I became the pitcher. At a young age, because I was pitching for 3 teams, sustained the shoulder injury. Ultimately, my claim to go to the Major League Baseball was blown up by the time I was 14 years old and really couldn't throw that fast anymore. So jumped into the sport of wrestling. I don't know if it was a wise idea. And ended up having close to 6 knee surgeries, 2 dislocated shoulders, 4 broken ribs, a punctured lung, several concussions. My wife says to this day my wrestling concussions is something got knocked off that just keeps me driving every day. But ultimately, I've been around sports my entire career. Came out of graduate school as a certified athletic trainer, went straight to work for New York University Athletic Department as a certified athletic trainer. Had the privilege to work part-time for the New York Knicks under legendary Mike Saunders, physical therapist, athletic trainer, who actually took me in the office one day and said, you should really be a physical therapist as well. Didn't have the strongest academics, so I had to go back to school and take some classes over. Went into physical therapy school, and ultimately between doing physical therapy for the New Jersey Devils, physical therapy, athletic training for the Red Bulls, which used to be Metro Stars, became the director of player care, jumped into Major League Soccer, now carry the title of the Associate Chief Medical Officer alongside Chief Medical Officer George Champas, underneath our commissioner, Don Garber, basically mitigating risk and liability for the league, but promoting health, safety, and performance for our athletes each and every day. And as many people in Major League Soccer know or follow Major League Soccer, we now have youth divisions. We have MLS Next, MLS Next Pro, Academy divisions. So Major League Soccer is doing it right. Not that anybody's doing it wrong, but they're realizing that athletes need to learn early how to take care of themselves so they can perform better, but more importantly, decrease the incidence of injuries. That was long-winded. I'll stop there.
5 things I want to jump off on, but
Yeah,
we can
yeah.
come back. Well, let's start with the MLS and how they are introducing it. It is fairly new news, and I don't know that everybody knows about it. Talk about like why you think that's a great idea. I lived in Europe for 10 years, and I remember my European counterparts said, soccer, U.S. soccer will never, or football will never be on par with what we do over here, right? How has this come about, and why?
I think under the leadership of Commissioner Garber and former Deputy Commissioner Mark Abbott, they had the vision of developing soccer players, football players. And they took this vision to now include other divisions that feed and grow players. And it's not just about learning the game, it's about learning how to take care of yourself, learning the fitness aspects, learning the performance aspects, the nutritional aspects, the hydration aspects, and making sure you're not playing injured and understand what it is to be injured or not injured. But I think Commissioner Garber and Mark Abbott had this vision of, as you said, bringing us to be competitive on the world stage. I'm sure your colleagues in Europe can say that we're not. We are now on the world stage. We have players coming out of the United States that are playing in every single professional football league, as they say in Europe, from the Bundesliga to the EPL to Serie A. So we have players from the U.S. that are homegrown playing all over the world. So Major League Soccer and U.S. Soccer, with their collaboration, has definitely finally developed a soccer player or football player, as they say overseas. Very, very proud to be part of that. I've been in the league now close to 26 years. I started off as an athletic trainer for the Metro Stars, became the director of player care for New York Red Bulls, and then went into the league office close to 23 years ago as I also grew my private practice, JAG Physical Therapy, which is in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania.
How many teams are in the MLS now? And how
There
many
are 30 teams. We have 30 teams now, 30 organizations. When I joined the league, we were 12 teams and actually retracted down to 10 for efficiency and cost effectiveness. And now, under our commissioner, we've grown to 30 teams, very successful. Some of those teams are worth $1 billion now on valuations. So we've definitely, I've been there from humble beginnings. And now I'm seeing opportunities like New York City FC building this amazing stadium in Queens, to New York Red Bulls building this amazing practice facility that they just built here in New Jersey. It's amazing to see what's happening. What U.S. Soccer just did in Atlanta, Georgia is awesome. So we are on the world stage, and people are coming from around the world to work within Major League Soccer and collaborate with U.S. Soccer. So very excited to be part of it. And my position was always safety, health, and making sure people are getting the right care.
You may know one of my classmates from San Diego State, Marcelo Balboa, played, I think, for Red Bull, but he's working in the Colorado Rapids. I had him on, and he's a commentator now, but I had him on about a year ago, and we were talking about the youth programs and what he's seeing as kids are coming up. So maybe we transition to talk about, like, from your point of view and what you focus on, and what I get a lot of questions on, and parents, and being a parent myself, seeing, sports is 13 months a year. We give kids a Friday off and say, come back, club season stops on Friday, come back for high school tryouts on Monday, and call it a break. Yet the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends taking 2 months off in between sports. How do we justify that? As a parent, of course, great, I want to give my kid a break. And yet, if I do, they'll be behind. They won't make it. They'll get cut.
Let me touch on a couple of things. First and foremost, please say hello to Marcello. I know him well. We've spent some time together. I can't share what we spent time about, but we definitely have spent time. He's an amazing professional. He's an amazing person, and he's done some great things in the youth market as it pertains to soccer. So if you see him, give him a big hug and a kiss from me. As it pertains to rest, it's a very interesting component. I believe that things need to be research-based, evidence-based. And when you look at the physiological component of rest, what does that really mean? If you're a multi-sport athlete, I don't know if 2 months is really the recommendation. I think where you look at the 2-month component, it's really if it's a repetitive sport or something similar of. If you're a multi-sport athlete, we've already seen the research that shows multi-sport athletes actually have an overall decrease of risk of injury. And that's evidence-based, that's research-based. What we have seen is an increase of incident of injuries of people that are unisport. They only play one sport. It's repetitious. Sometimes children are playing on 2, 3 teams. Go back to where we started with my baseball injury. My father and brother thought I was going to be the next Ron Guidry, so they had me on 3 teams. Well, there was no pitch counts when I was a kid. So I was pitching 7 innings for one team at 3 o'clock and pitching 7 innings for another team at 7 p.m. That's not really any type of advice that we were getting at that point in time. Nowadays, we have pitch counts, we have rest days, all of that's included. My opinion is your children have to have an opportunity to grow. They have to have an opportunity to get appropriate nutrition, appropriate hydration, and also appropriate conditioning. One thing we always miss is parents expect the coaches to be doing all of that. Usually most coaches, especially in a single sport, understand the rules of the sport. They really don't have a conditioning background. They don't have an exercise physiology background. They don't have a certified athletic trainer's background, nor a physical therapist background. So it's very difficult for the parents to put the ownership on a coach to say, hey, teach my child nutrition, teach my child how to hydrate, teach my child how to condition. Yeah, coaches try to condition during a practice, but at the end of the day, you should seek outside counsel. I mean, if you look at my company, in the 3 states that we currently operate, we have over 300 certified athletic trainers in the community doing that education at clubs, at academies, in all sports. And we give parents and children an opportunity to walk into any of our clinics to get any type of expert advice. It could be on an injury, it could be a direction of nutrition, it could be a direction of hydration. Parents have to understand, as you said, the skills you learn in sports are amazing the rest of your life. But the biggest thing is learning to take care of yourself, learning the understanding of how important it is to move your entire life. When we look at obesity statistics in the country, when we look at illnesses like diabetes, ultimately we can decrease half of that just by movement, appropriate nutrition, appropriate hydration. And you learn that in sports. So there's the opportunity.
The other huge statistic, I don't know exactly how accurate this is, but even if it's close, they say 70% of youth sports coaches receive no training, right? So mostly, you were a great athlete in college, here's a whistle, now I'm going to give you 14 kids and 28 parents, good luck, right? So they don't have any of the tools. And yes, if they had a great coach and were taught those things, then maybe some of that will bleed over. But you're right, when you have clubs with huge amount of athletes, and then I know the one club that I work with here in LA, they have over 500 kids, and just keeping them staffed with coaches is a full-time job for the head of the club. Yet the head of the club also has to run a team, work with all the parents, work with all the athletes, like giving them the tools that they need. What I see a lot too is after the fact. Okay, she's got the knee injury, he's got the shoulder injury. How do we do preventative work so that we can get in front of it versus chasing our tail?
Kirsten, if you were in front of me, I'd give you a big high five. I taught for years, and again, I was a certified athletic trainer before a physical therapist. As I said, I worked for NYU. I also worked for Columbia University, and while at Columbia University, I had a professor status in their physical education and sort of wellness program. And what I ended up doing was working for New York State, teaching coaches classes. Ooh. And the coaches class that I taught was a 16-hour class. Most states require their coaches to take an hour to 2 hours certification. I used to teach a 16-hour class that used to talk about nutrition, used to talk about psychosocial development, used to talk about physiological development at all ages, used to talk about simple first aid, simple CPR, and of course hydration and nutrition, warm-up and flexibility. Now most states, if they do have a certification, you go take a 2-hour, 3-hour class, maybe there's CPR in it, you pray there's first aid in it, but ultimately I think we've got to go a little bit back to where we were and start to really develop coaches. I do think in the soccer world, which is where my world, they do have class certifications. But depending upon the license level that you're at is how much education you get and how much of the other aspects or disciplines such as nutrition, hydration, performance you get. In the lower levels of licensing, it's more about the game. As you get a little deeper, you learn about the physiological aspects. I think parents need to understand, and I've said this for 25 years, understand who's coaching your child. Understand, do they have the skill set to develop your child? They may have won a championship at an academy tournament, but it doesn't mean they know anything about nutrition, doesn't mean they know anything about hydration, and it doesn't mean they know anything about performance and injury prevention. And remember, I worked, again, going back to the New York Knicks, I worked for a legendary Ernie Grunfeld, who was our general manager. And at the time, Jeff Van Gundy was the head coach of the New York Knicks. And because I was so low on the totem pole of the athletic trainers, I used to work the summer camps. And the summer camps, we used to have 6 or 7 locations. We were used to bringing 200 to 300 high school kids to play basketball. And I remember in the beginning of every camp, Ernie Grunfeld would come and say, I have my coaching staff. Jeff Van Gundy is my head coach. None of you coaches are going to come and replace Jeff. I need you to develop the children. I need you to make sure they have fun and enjoy the sport. I need you to make sure you teach them the skills of the game. I need to make sure that they understand nutrition and how to hydrate, and understand that they understand how to take care of themselves. And Ernie would say that in the beginning of camp, and he would tell them that. And it was great to see that then when Jeff would come and speak, it would be the same thing. I have my assistants. Just because you win the championship at our camp doesn't mean I'm giving you a ticket to the NBA to be a coach. And a lot of the coaches took that to heart, and they truly developed the kids. You see it in all sports. I'm involved in wrestling every day, and you see the development. Think about where wrestling was, and I'm dating myself, in 1985 to where it is now. I mean, I remember our coach would say, put this plastic bag on you and lose 6 pounds. Nowadays, that's child abuse. I won't tell my coach that. I'm actually seeing him this weekend. But needless to say, we've evolved. So as parents, we need to evolve and know who's coaching our children and understand, do they have the basis? And if they don't, you have resources like me in the community that can help.
Yeah. You're preaching from my book. So I say focus on the 3 F's when you're choosing a club, when you're choosing a coach: friends, fun, and fundamentals. Under the age of 13, that's what it's about. Find the place where your kids can grow, they can be developed, they're going to make friends, and we shouldn't care whether they win the U9 national championship, because that's not a thing. But if they say, Mom, Dad, that was fun, I want to do that again, we won. But right now, we're so focused on, I'm flying from Texas to Maryland for the U9 national. You're like, no, like you're absolutely focusing on the wrong thing. And then parents, forget the FOMO. Well, they're doing it. Well, they've got a private coach. Well, they are going to Sweden this summer. No, we need to be focused on what are our family values? We want to go camping for 3 weeks in the middle of July with our 9 and 10-year-old. That's what you should be doing.
Yeah, listen, there's a social component that being involved and working as a team for a common goal is great, but never lose the family principles, never lose the family dynamic, and understand, if you look at some of the best athletes in the world, they've had that family dynamic, and parents have to be able to make that balance. And again, a quick story, my daughter, who's now 30, I'm definitely showing my age, was on the U13 local club team, and they won their championship. They ended up winning 11 games in a row. They went 11-2. So think about it. They lost their first 2 games. They went on a run, and then they went in the championships. They went 11-2. They win their championship game. The kids get off for the season. Next season begins. They start with a preseason tournament. The normal 2,000 kids in the park, the food trucks everywhere. Same coach, same 14 girls on the team. It was, 16 girls on the team. Everything was identical. The girls go out for their first game since they won the championship, and they tied. They tied their first game. Second game they go out, they lose 1-0. Parents call an emergency meeting. They want to fire the coach. This was the same coach that 60 days earlier coached the kids who were having fun, who were learning the game, to a championship. They wanted to fire the coach. And the reason why they wanted to fire the coach is because 5 moms and dads felt that this coach was going to ruin the chances of getting into the U.S. soccer notification plan and get into the eyes of U.S. soccer. And I sat there at the time I was working in soccer, and I said, you do realize there's a slim chance one of these girls may make it to the U.S. national level. One of them, sure as heck, they didn't fire the coach. They listened to me. The kids had a successful season. Now here we are. My daughter's 30. If you look at those 16 girls, one girl played Division I for 2 years, wow, and another girl played Division III soccer for 4 years. My daughter was the one that played Division III soccer. The other one that played Division I soccer sustained an injury. Every other girl stopped playing somewhere in high school. So that's a poor thing on all of us. You want to keep kids engaged. You want them to have fun. U.S. national team is a dream and a goal, but how about we work in steps?
And what we know, and particularly with women, is that those who are still active at 23 are more likely to stay active the rest of your life. And to your point, we want to raise athletes for life. We want them to see themselves as athletes, that when I feel my best, it's because I'm using my body. I'm being physically active. I'm still engaged. And what we know is as we get into our 50s, if we're not using it, we're losing it. And that, we can talk about that too. But let's pivot a little bit, because what I love about what you were just saying with the mental side of it and short-term losses for long-term gains, and I'm sure you've seen this in soccer. I can think of 2 Division I coaches I've interviewed and talked to about, I love these coaches where they're losing early and in the season and they're not flinching, because they're like, this will be a good test. This will be a great test to see what we have. And they don't look at it as, we're playing number 5 and we have to win everything. But actually they have this ability, like a Steve Kerr, like these guys that can understand, Brad Stevens, these guys that understand that it's a long season, that it's a long, and parents, when you're seeing a team lose early in the season, I mean, even you see the Dodgers won back-to-back World Series, and I saw the article yesterday, they're losing already. Is it a bad sign? What are we, like 3 games into the season, right? And already people are doom and gloom. Have you seen that in
You gotta lose to understand what victory is. You gotta learn from the loss. Most people don't realize that value in life. That life skill of getting knocked down and getting back up, or learning from the mistakes or the loss, will only make you better. Again, everybody sees me as the CEO at JAG Physical Therapy, work in professional sports. He's a doctor of physical therapy. I've got 2 master's degrees, doctorate. They think that was like, I woke up and that was all there. I talk to my 21-year-old because I always tell him he was born on second base, and he gets very angry at that. And I got to explain to him, there's a saying: did you dig ditches in the rain? Your father dug ditches in the rain. So you've got to understand that if you don't get knocked down, you're never going to learn to get up. You don't want every year to be a championship. You want to lose to learn how to win, and more importantly, to learn how to win to really appreciate it. If you look at Michael Jordan, if you look at Derek Jeter, 2 different sports, 2 different athletes, they're unbelievably successful. They were not always on winning teams, and they didn't always succeed. But when they did succeed, they really appreciated it more. And parents have to understand, it's not just about getting a medal at 13, 14, 15 years old, winning a state championship, a national championship, a county championship. What did your children learn that's going to transfer into their life, into being a person, into being a professional? When you look at the most successful entrepreneurs out there, they were athletes. They weren't championship athletes. They were athletes. They learned about communication. They learned about teamwork. They learned about collaboration. They learned about being able to find solution, look at risks. They learned how to present and perform and be in front of people. So most of our entrepreneurs out there that are successful are former athletes, not World Cup winners, not Super Bowl winners, not World Series winners. They were just athletes. I was a very good athlete, but I was never a state champion. I was a good athlete. I knew how to fight. I knew how to compete. But I was never like the guy that went home with the gold medal. I was the silver or the bronze. It was okay. There's not a day I don't come to work with my team, and I tell them it's all about learning from the mistake. Nobody's going to get fired for trying something, but you've got to learn from the mistake. You can't keep making the mistake over and over again. And parents have to understand the life lessons your children are getting are amazing for the rest of their life.
So let's talk about your specialty, which is and I see this a lot. In fact, my middle son, who's still playing Division I basketball, was injured this year, not with one injury, but with two injuries. And with what you do, there's also the mental side of all of this. So there's the physical side, okay, we can diagnose what's wrong with you, but getting through an injury, and I know we're in the middle of playoffs with the NBA, and I've seen some of your posts around, having an injury. What advice do you have for parents that are in the middle of an injury that or an athlete listening, getting through the mental side of this is, and to your point about gifts, I think this is one of the biggest gifts, because once you realize, wow, I survived that, I actually got through that injury and I came back stronger, I have the ability, we have the ability as human beings to actually decide how we want to think about our bodies. And when we heal ourselves from the inside out, it's amazing what else happens.
Well, first and foremost, it takes a team to collaborate. Physical therapist, athletic trainer, coach, parents, and the player have to collaborate for the best outcome coming out of injury, have to be supportive. This athlete, maybe it's a surgery that kept him out for months, maybe it's a simplistic muscle strain that kept him out for weeks. That reintegration into sport, into practice, into teamwork, into collaboration has to be a team approach, and parents and coaches have to be involved in that approach, because the last thing you could do is take an athlete that's been out for any length of time and keep them down because maybe they missed something. Yes, there's an integration, there's a progression back, but the coach and the parent have to be able to manage the expectations. And again, I always tell the simplest thing is you have a sprained ankle, you go from not being able to walk to being able to walk, to be able to jog, to be able to sprint, to be able to cut, to be able to play. People have to understand that's a process of physiological component of healing in your body, but the mental aspect of several weeks ago I couldn't walk, now I'm being expected to put the ball in the back of the goal, or the puck in the back of the goal, or the ball into the basket. There's a whole parameter of progression. And the best thing to do is teach the athlete steps, build goals, work collaboratively on those goals. But the biggest mistake we make in youth sports is we don't include everybody in the conversation. Parents just want to know, hey, doctor cleared you, you're good to go. That's the worst thing parents want to hear. My son or daughter are cleared. They're cleared to go back to participation. They haven't played in 3, 5, 6 weeks. They can't just jump back on the court. Parents will say, oh, well, they're young. They're going to sustain a secondary injury because they're not conditioned at the level that they were. So you've got to give things time and progress. And again, it all depends on the injury. But just because a doctor writes a clearance to back to participation, you've got to be working with a certified athletic trainer, a physical therapist, and really progress the athlete back to full go. Participation and full go are two different things. And parents have to understand they've got to be part of that team.
What recommendations do you have for parents and athletes on what, from the mental side of it, how do you get through those times?
So the biggest thing is function, all right? Athletes have to know, can they do what they did before? And if you build a step process of performance, first of all, it's great to show an athlete a video of what they did before they sustained an injury. Mm-hmm. Because it puts them back into their so-called skin. You're watching what you were able to do. Your injury is not going to stop you from getting there. Your injury is technically over. This is what you are capable of doing. So it's very, very important. And nowadays with technology, it's so easy to find film of an athlete, even a youth athlete, for them to see what they were able to do. And then the rehab team have to build with the coaching team a progression to that level of performance. And mentally, the athlete starts to really buy in. Oh, I couldn't do this, but I can do this and this. And the whole thing is I want to get back to where I was at the level of the video. I find that's been amazing. I've got some of the best sports psychologists that I've worked with for years, and they love the fact that you show the athlete where we're looking to get them back to, and they really buy into it. And then during the process, videotape the athlete and show a comparative of look how far you've come. I mean, athletes, and again, like I said, technology has come so far that it's in the palm of our hand, literally. So it's so advantageous. I film patients every day just to show them week by week how they've progressed. We had a high-level celebrity who was is an unbelievable soccer coach nowadays, soccer manager, and he needed bilateral knee replacements. He's around my age, and literally 2 days after his knee replacement, he was like, I'm never going to coach again. Now he's 3 months. He's jogging around. He's doing great. And he just took another coaching job. And he's doing phenomenal. But it's every week I had to show him a video of how well he progressed. And since it's in the palm of our hands, that helps our mental component. The other thing is confidence. Coaches got to give the kids an opportunity to experiment and be able to succeed.
I use that exact technique when I work one-on-one with athletes, and it's really fun. They get on the call and they're like, shoulders are down, heads down. And then I say, tell me about a time when everything went perfectly for you. Just physically, they change, their eyes light up. They tell me the story, well, I scored 5 goals. I mean, I was only in 5th grade, but I scored 5 goals. You're like, that's it. That's what we're going to bring back. And when they realize, oh, it's possible, and you're right, it's you. It's not like we're saying, go study somebody else. And while sometimes I recommend that as well, like study the greats, find out what they're doing from a rehab, nutrition, what are they doing mentally? Like success leaves clues. So understanding what others do, but also studying what you've done really well. And that's the mental tape you want playing as you get ready to prepare to compete.
I recently had a Villanova athlete, literally in the last 3 weeks, who was rehabbing a very simple injury for about 2 weeks. And he was cleared by everybody, goes back to his first meet. Now think about this. 2 weeks, you're not training the way you want. You didn't compete in 3 different competitions. You go back to the first one, and his PR time, his personal time, wasn't where it was supposed to be. He didn't place. He was absolutely beside himself. He got in an argument with his parents. He got in an argument with his teammates. And I get a phone call from his father. Listen, you're the only one he listens to. Well, that's not totally true, but let me have a conversation with him. I started having a conversation with him, and I'm like, well, tell me what you did to prepare. Well, I got out of rehab, and I did these 2 days. So let's talk about this. You trained for 3 months to get to peak performance. You have an injury that sets you back. You now fight back. You're injury free, and you really expected the 2 weeks wasn't going to decrease your performance. He looked me straight in the eyes and goes, I guess you're right. I said, why don't you give yourself a week of training? I bet you next week your time's going to be better. He came in 2nd place in the next meet, and last week his team won the meet. Actually, they came in, yes, they won the meet. So, again, it comes down to even a simple conversation can change the demeanor of performance and expectations.
And I think you nailed it on the head, and that's the call I get as well, is sometimes parents, you are saying the right things, but sometimes it takes an expert, which is somebody outside of your house, to say exactly what you're going to say so that your child can hear it, or your adult athlete can hear it. Because sometimes we just like, oh, I didn't really think about the fact that I sat around for 2 weeks or wasn't competing fully, and then expected to have the exact same result. So, yeah.
And I want all the parents to know out there, at home, my wife tells me I'm not an expert. All right. So, and we could be talking about a hamstring strain or a calf strain she has, and I'm the last person she wants to hear from. She'll talk to any one of my physical therapists but me. So it's not just you, parents. I do this every day with people from around the world, and my own wife doesn't want to hear anything I have to say.
My dad always famously said that. He was a doctor, a very well-respected doctor in our town, and he'd come home at dinner and say, nobody respects me around here. I gotta go back to the office. I'm like, yeah, you're just dad, right? And that's, of course, what we want, is we want our kids to push back. That's part of their development, is them questioning and asking good questions and looking for other leaders and other mentors. I always recommend too, for kids to find somebody 1 or 2 or 3 steps ahead of them, and what is the path they've taken? How did they go about it? Because again, success leaves clues, and when they're researching outside of themselves, because they tend to spend this is the only way I know how to do it. Wow, if you actually look and see what, this kid who did make the varsity team, what was he doing? Wow, okay, maybe there's some clues in there as to how I can get better.
Nothing better than peer mentorship. But the other thing I think I want to share with parents is the more mentors you involve in your child's development is so advantageous for your child. The more people your child have the opportunity to interact from, not just in the sport world, but in any parameter, different professions, different opportunities. There's so many different styles of way people do things. I tell even my team, multiple mentors is much better than one mentor. I am so fortunate. I have dozens of mentors. I have business mentors, physical therapy mentors, athletic training mentors, sports mentors. So I'm very, very fortunate. And I tell people, it's not about one mentor. It's about surrounding yourself with a bunch of mentors.
And we all need coaching. I mean, that's the other thing, right? Is I think it's so interesting. People are like, well, you should know this. Why should I know this? I don't, just started golfing a year ago, really. It's and I feel well, I'm an athlete. I should figure this out. Why? You haven't done this before, right? So getting coaching, getting feedback. And I agree with mentorship. My middle son, who has no idea what he wants to do, wants to be a college basketball player. That's what he's doing. But this summer, he's going to go volunteer, and sit with a judge, get to be in his courtroom for 3 weeks. Just think of people oh, does he want to go to law school? He has no idea what he wants to do. And so why not go learn from what other people have, what they're.
He's got to find his path. He's got to find what he really enjoys. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So you've got the book. Well, you've got many books, but your book on, so promote the book that you have for soccer players, which is around injury prevention and.
Yep. So I have Soccer Injury Prevention and Treatment. I have, which is a book all about preventing injury in youth soccer. It truly is about the youth level and teaching parents and athletes how to take care of themselves. And it's a very simple read. The second book I was honored to write with New York Yankees team physician, Dr. Christopher Ahmad. It's called Play Ball. And the concept is baseball and softball, most common injuries, how to take care of yourself, how to prevent them from a physician's view and a physical therapist, athletic trainer's view. Very excited. That book's been great. I also have an entrepreneurial book called The JAG Method, which is basically 18 to 30-year-olds. It's a 25-minute kick in your butt. It's basically always get up when you get knocked down, never take no for an answer. I take 13 stories of my life that I made in literally 1-minute chapters. And basically, it was my concept to give young professionals, no matter what industry you're in, just a kick in the butt to say, all right, this guy failed and he did okay. And then my last book, which is amazing, on the Amazon bestseller list, never thought this was going to be the book that I became an Amazon bestseller, is Pickleball, 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 Don't Get Hurt. And ultimately, it all started on, I was doing an interview in the media for the local radio station, The Fan, WFAN, here in New York City. And they said, we talked about everything except pickleball. And I said, well, that's an easy conversation. Pickleball, pickleball, pickleball. Don't get hurt. Everybody is getting hurt because they don't understand the demands of the sport. They don't understand you can't go from sitting in a desk chair for 8 hours and get on the court. You can't drink coffee all day. It's dehydrating. Why are you getting cramps? You've got to prepare for the sport. And literally, this book is taken off. It's been amazing. I've spoken more on this book than anything I've ever spoken on. And really, all it's about is trying to decrease injuries and enjoy the social aspect of the sport. Wouldn't you rather be on the court than on my table? Wouldn't you rather be on the court than an emergency room? So it's a very simple read. It's for every age of anybody that wants to play pickleball to stay on the court. And thank you for the opportunity to speak about all the books.
Of course. And I love it because, again, I'm 56. I'm just behind you. And I lift 3, 4 days a week and I hike every day with my dog in the mountains. And I feel like as I'm getting older, I'm getting better because I'm prioritizing that. In your 30s and 40s, you think, oh, I can do whatever I want. I can be the weekend warrior and it doesn't matter. And then, the number of friends that decided to go water skiing and pulled a hammy or, like why, and we think, we're still in our 20s and we can do that. So preventatively, what are your biggest recommendations to people in our age group about how do they stay healthy if they want to become, a pickleball player or
That's an amazing question, and I appreciate the question. People have to understand you got to move. If you're a couch potato or you're working at a desk all day, you've got to understand it's not 3 days a week, it's not 4 days a week. 7 days a week, you've got to give yourself 30 to 45 minutes of something aerobic. The most important muscle in your body is your heart. And we've got to work our heart every single day. I tell people it could be a 30-minute walk. It could be a 45-minute cycling. You could get in the pool and just kick your feet around for 30 minutes. I don't need you to be a swimmer. I need you to move. Movement's the most important thing. The stronger your heart is, the stronger your body is. The other thing that's very important is as we learned from when we were kids, what we put in, you're going to get out. If you're constantly going to be putting bad things in your body's not going to perform at the highest level. I am healthier now at 59 than I was at 49. Ultimately, it's lessons you've got to learn. You've got to keep the body moving. You've got to hydrate. Everybody skips hydration. Think about our age. What are we talking about? Osteoarthritis. We're talking about bone on bone. The more lubricant your joints are, all comes from the simplicity of hydration. You've got to hydrate. You've got to keep your body moving. Those are the simplest things I could tell people. But exercise, I like to tell people, and I learned this from a very, very good friend of mine, doctor. Exercise is every day there's a Y in it. And if we think about it, every day has a Y in it. So 7 days a week, you've got to do something. You don't have to do the same thing, but you've got to do something. Maybe today it's 2 hours of pickleball. Maybe tomorrow it's walking with your spouse in the mountains. Maybe the next day it might be swimming in the pool. Every day you've got to do something. Your mind is going to be so much better. You're going to think fresher. You're going to have more energy. I mean, I am a guy that drinks no caffeine. I think you could see I'm pretty excitable.
You don't need it, huh?
That's it.
But isn't it true too? I mean, we need to build muscle too. So we need to be, it's time under tension. It's actually keeping, and particularly for women who are going through menopause and where estrogen and progesterone are going off the cliff. And what are you doing to actually keep your muscle mass? Because as that's declining, that's also and you want to think about it as a lifelong sport. If 95, you want to get up out of the chair, that's a squat. That's just understanding how the muscles.
So muscle strength 3 times a week. Try to do a global component. It could be with bands. It could be with universal equipment. Men, I'm going to address you right now. What you lifted at 22 years old, you can't do at 42 and 52. Don't go to the gym and throw it on. You can't believe how many torn muscles that I see every year from the guy that's getting back to the gym and thinks he was 22 and throws the plates on. How about we just go to one of the selectorized equipments, sort of a pulley machine, lightweight, go through the mechanic, full range of motion. The other thing we should teach the viewers is full range of motion of every joint. Make sure when you're doing strengthening activity, you're not limiting the motion, because if you're limiting the motion, you're decreasing the overall strength. You think you're exercising, but you're not getting the elasticity, you're not getting the elongation, and you're not getting the strength. You need to do full range of motion of the joint, and it should be multiple repetitions with lower rate. Don't stack on the plates. And again, I address the men. I see so many of you with torn pecs, torn biceps. You can't just walk in the gym after not being there for 10 years and throw the same plates that you threw on then.
And I've always been told like 8 to 10 glasses of water a day. What is the hydration that we should be?
Actually, a great question, and thank you for bringing it up. First and foremost, fluid is great. Caffeinated fluids will dehydrate you. Alcohol will dehydrate you. As you said, 8 ounces of fluid a day, preferably water, non-sugary drinks are advantageous. But fluid in your body, you want to try to do just no alcohol, decrease caffeine, and try non-high sugar drinks. The other thing is most people don't realize when you are participating, it's important to have at least 6 to 8 ounces of every 20 to 30 minutes of activity. Our pickleball players need to understand. You guys are going there for 3 hours. First of all, what have you done for 3 hours in the last 20 years of your life? But
Sleep.
it's a social, it's interactive, you're enjoying it. I get it. But fatigue and dehydration cause muscle tears. So it's very, very important that we hydrate at those breaks. Every 20 to 30 minutes, I tell everybody 6 to 8 ounces, preferably water or non-sugary drink.
And as we age, we get more and more gluten intolerant, right? We need to be loading with protein. Can you talk about what is optimal from a nutrition standpoint?
I think protein is very, very important. Don't skip the carbs, but it's very important that you get protein. It helps with muscle strength. It helps with you maintaining healing, especially if you're exercising. So protein's important. I like the lean proteins versus the fatty proteins. You know, everybody likes to say pork is the other white meat. Yes, but let's get a lean piece of pork. Let's not get, the fatty bacon pork. You can get lean pork. So it's very, very important that when you're getting that steak, you don't want to have all the fat. Try to get the lean piece of steak. I'm not telling people don't eat red meat. I'm not telling people don't eat pork, but eat the leaner portions of those things. The other thing that's important too is, 6 to 8 ounces of protein, 2 to 3 meals a day are very, very important for the recovery aspect of your body.
John, this has been so fun. I really enjoyed connecting with you and learning from you and spending time. I just want to end with one question. I mean, we got World Cup coming up. Educate our audience. Who should we be watching? Who are the best ones? Who's going to win this thing?
Well, we've got our U.S. team playing on American soil. We should supporting the U.S. national men's team in the World Cup, and we hope to see them at MetLife Stadium for the finals. That's what all of us should be hoping, praying, and supporting and cheering for. U.S. Soccer, Major League Soccer have done a yeoman effort to prepare athletes for this. I mean, think about it. It's on our soil. It's a great opportunity for the U.S. to really show how we've grown. The second thing is enjoy the matches. Don't argue. Have fun with it. Enjoy it. Everybody have fun. It's amazing. I've had the privilege to be around soccer all these years. I've never played a game of soccer. I know how to fix a soccer player. I don't know how to play the game. But I've got to tell you, there's nothing more enjoyable than watching a USA athlete compete. And just like the Olympics, we as Americans got to come out and support the team.
Agreed. John Gallucci, it's been a pleasure to have you on. Where can people follow you, get more of you, engage with you?
You can find me on LinkedIn at John A. Gallucci Jr. You can find me on Instagram at Dr. JagPT, that's DrJagPT, or you can find us on our company Instagram, that's JagPT, or always go to jagpt.com on the internet.
Thank you so much for your time. Parents, follow, ask us questions. We're both very active on socials. I love when parents reach out and have a problem they want to solve. This, I believe parenting is a team sport, and it takes all of us to do it together. So let's do this.
Thank you for the opportunity, and look for our new podcast, On the Table with Dr. JagPT.
Yay, let's do this.